Right, so we are looking at lesson two. So this is our parameters and return investigate. All right, so there's only three levels on this one, but it is, it's not the easiest stuff to get through. So we're going to get into it. This first one, it wants you to run this program, read the code with a partner. They want to know how calculate works, right? What arguments are being passed to calculate? What does the parameter require for calculate? What is returned, right? And then they want us to add a divide button and update this display so that it will tell us if the number is divisible by 3. Right, so I could put a number in here like 5, 15. If I click plus, it's going to tell me 5 plus 15 is 20. It's an even number. If I did, 20 and 10, and I said minus, 20 minus 10 is 10, it's an even number. Right, if I said 3 and 3 and hit multiply, 3 times 3 is 9, the answer is an odd number. Right, so there's a couple of things that we need to do. We need to look at this code, we need to add the divide button, and then we need to add another line down here so that we know if it's a number that's divisible by 3. So when we're looking at this code, right, there's 3 buttons. So there's 3 on events, right? One is for the add button, one is for the minus button, one is for the multiply button. And what's interesting is they're setting text for this output label, which is this. And then the text they're setting it to is a function call. Right, so kind of from that lecture video, this should key you in that that calculate function is going to have a return down at the bottom, because somehow this function is returning something back to here so that that text can be put into this output label. Right, and then you'll notice when I call the function inside of my parentheses, I'm passing a string in. Right, for the add button, it's a space plus space. For the minus button, it's a space minus space, and for the multiply button, it's a space asterisk place. So if we want to add a division button, we're going to have to move this around a little bit, go into design mode, and do that. But what I want you to notice before we do is when I call this function, this is my argument, so that's the value that I'm going to pass into my function. My function definition is here on line 17, and you can see calculate, and inside the parentheses I'm using this word symbol. Right, there's no quotes around it. This is a parameter, which is essentially a variable in a function definition. So this word symbol, we call it a parameter. It's going to get assigned the value that I give it based on which button I click. So if I click the add button, symbol gets assigned space plus space. Right, if I were to click the multiply button, it's going to get space asterisk space. And you'll see that I'm using symbol in my code. Right, so I'm saying, hey, if the value of symbol is the plus sign, meaning I clicked the plus button, then I want you to add the two numbers together. If that's not true, check if it's a minus sign, because if it is, I want you to subtract the two numbers. And if neither one of those are true, then it must be multiply, so I'm going to have you multiply them. All right, and then down below, they're giving me some code using modulus. If you guys remember, modulus returns the remainder, so whatever my answer is, modulus 2. So if I take, if I divide 2 into my answer, and the modulus gives me 0, that means that 2 divided into that number equally with no remainder. So it's got to be an even number. Right? If I get anything other than 0 back, that means that it was an odd number. So this, we're going to have to change, not change, but we're going to have to add to this a little bit to fulfill this requirement to see if it's divisible by 3. But first we're going to add this divide button. All right, so I need to go to design mode. What I'm going to do first is make some space. So I'm going to move these over to the left. So I make space for them, right? And then I need to add a new button. And what I'm noticing is the height and the width for all of these is 70 by 40. All right, so when I add this new button, it's going to be too big to start. So I'm going to change this to 70 and this to 40. And then I'm going to move it over so that it looks correct. I'm also noticing that, like for this, there's no text for the button. They're using an image. inside of here. So when I go to this button, right now it says button, I'm going to delete that. And then I am going to add a different image. I'm going to go to icons, and the one that they want you to use, I know it doesn't tell you this, they want you to use this italic. So we're going to say that's division. All right. Now they called this add button, minus button, multiply button. So the ID I'm going to give it is the divide button. All right. So now that I have my button, I have 3 on events. I need to add a new on event to account for this new divide button. So this is going to be my divide button to click. And then I'm just going to kind of copy what they did up here. So I'm going to set text. The ID that I'm going to set is that output label. And then I'm going to put my function call. So calculate. Right. So I just kind of mimic these other lines. So I'm calling the function calculate, only I'm passing in this / for division. Right. So now that I have that, this is the argument that's going to get passed into here. I've accounted for plus, minus, and multiply. So I need to add one. All right. So this is multiplying. So I'm going to change this to say if symbol is equal to the multiplication, then it should multiply. So now I have space, right? So if it's not add, not subtract, not multiply, it must be division. So I'm going to add a new answer, update, and I'm going to say number 1 divided by number 2, right? So hopefully this is making sense so far. That did go into the wrong one. That should be in the else. Right. So if they give me a plus sign, if that's the value that I pass in to my parameter for symbol, so if symbol is a plus, it's going to add. Else, if it's a minus, it's going to subtract. Else, if it's multiply, it's going to multiply. Otherwise, it's going to fall to divide. All right. So that, if I run this, if I put like 20 and 10, you can see it's doing my division for me now. The other thing I need to do is update my output. So what I'm going to do, right, I basically need this code exactly as it is. I just have to change some of these values in here. So I'm going to, because I think this is easier, I'm just going to copy this. Go back to block mode. Right, and then, so I have the code. I just need to change it, right? So I don't want to know if it's divisible or if it's even or odd. I want to know if it's divisible by 3. So if I take my answer mod 3, anytime I can divide 3 into my answer, if the remainder is 0, then I know that that was a number divisible by 3, right? So I need to put this somewhere. Let's see if they gave me a spot to put it, which they did not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to design mode, and I can see that there's this label right here, right? What I want to do is add another one. So I'm going to move this up a little bit, right? Because I want to, actually, I think I can just do it inside of there. Let's just do it that way. Let's just do it inside of there because I think that'll be easier for you guys. Actually, no, we're going to go ahead and go label 3. All right, I'm just going to put it up top because I think it'll be easier. So I'm going to add a text area. I'm going to make it a decent size. All right, I'm going to make the background. I'm just going to have the text be like an orange color because that's what they did on the other one. All right. I want my background color to be basically transparent. So I'm going to have it look like this. And then I don't want a border on this. So I'm going to make that 0. Again, you can set this part up however you want. I'm just going to call this the 3 label, because this is where I'm going to put the output if it is divisible by 3. All right. So if I go back to code, now that I have my 3 label set up, I can set the output for 3 label for each one of these, and I can just change this text. All right, so for this first one, I'm going to say the answer is divisible by 3. Otherwise, I'm going to say the answer is not divisible by 3. All right, so we can go ahead and run this. Let's see if it works. So I should, if I said like 9 and 3, I click divide, right? It says the answer is divisible by 3. The answer is an odd number. If I put 20 and 10 and click divide, it says the answer is not divisible by 3 and the answer is an even number. All right, so that's the first one. So you can go ahead and finish and continue once you get that. Again, for that last part, you just need to put that text wherever, right? Just make sure the code's right and that it's showing on your app. This one has 2 parts, and it's a little tricky because we're going to use substring on this one. So the idea is when this app runs, I can click a length, right? So this is how many letters I want in the word, and then the letter is the starting letter for the word I want. So if I say 4 and A, it's going to give me all of the words that have exactly 4 characters that start with A. If I said like 6 and E, it's going to give me all the words in this data set that have 6 characters that start with E. All right, so they want me to do a couple of things here. One is just kind of read through how this works. Right, so I can see up top that they're creating this word list by importing a data set from code.org. So I'm getting the words table and the word column. And then I'm using this filtered list pattern. So I'm going to create this filtered word list and start it as an empty list. And then it's calling filter. And I can see that filter is taking in 2 arguments. The first one is get number from the length dropdown, which is this guy. So it's going to get this number and use that for the first argument. The second one is it's going to get the text from the letter dropdown, right? And then it's using 2 lowercase. So 2 lowercase just says no matter what they typed in, make it a lowercase version of that letter. So if they choose A, right, you can see it's going to get a capital A. The 2 lowercase tells it, okay, make the capital lowercase. We have 2 lowercase and 2 uppercase. You can use those, whenever you need to. So then we have an on event. So anytime this drop down or this drop down changes, it's calling that filter. And again, it's getting those same 2 arguments to pass into this filter function, which has 2 parameters, right? Your argument count and your parameter count always have to match. So here I'm giving it 2 arguments, so I need 2 parameters. So the first one is len for length, because that's going to be this length drop down value. The other one is letter, because that is the letter drop-down value in lowercase. So this right here, I created this filtered list up here. I made it an empty list, but I need to make sure it's empty before I run it like a second or a third time. Because you'll notice when I run this, right, if I say like 3A, if I click it again, it doesn't keep the A's, it gets rid of them, and then it just shows me the E's. So this line right here is extremely important in this pattern. This makes sure that we delete anything in our list from our last filter before we run the algorithm for the new filter. So we have our for loop, which is going to loop through our word list length. And what they're doing is they're doing 2 checks in this if statement. So one, they're checking to see, is the word list at the current element length equal to len? So is the number of letters in this word at this element equal to the number of letters that they want? Right? Or is the word list at index I substring 01. So it's going to get the first letter from this word in the word list and see if it matches the letter, right? If those, sorry, it's an and. If this is true and this is true, then I'm going to append that word to my filtered word list, right? Because like in this case, I found the word I. So I chose 3. The length of that word is 3, so 3 is equal to 3. That's true. And word list substring 01, this is just another method that you can use to get parts of a string. So this substring 01 says get the first letter, which in this case would be E, and check it against letter, right? Remember, we chose E in this dropdown. Capital E's and lowercase e's are not equal, so that's why we had to do the 2 lowercase, because I want to make sure that this has a chance of being true. So I made sure I made this a lowercase e. So now I can say, okay, I have a lowercase e in I, and I have a lowercase e that they chose in the drop down, so this is true. And then every time both of these are true, I'm going to, append that word at that index to the filtered word list, right? And then when it's done, I'm going to check to see if my filtered word list has a length, because if it has a length, that means I found at least one word that match. So if this is equal to 0, that means that literally no words matched my search case. So I'm just going to put this string no options available so I can show something here, right? Like if I came in here and chose 1 and Z, there's no words in my word list data set that have one letter and start with Z, so it doesn't return nothing. It says no options available. All right, so what we want to do, they want us to kind of change this because they don't, like they're basically saying, hey, what if they want to give you 2 letters and see if the first 2 letters of the word match, or what if they want to give you 3? And you can check and see if 3 letters in the word match. And this is a little tricky, but we're going to go ahead and work through it because you'll see 90%, actually like 98% of my code is already there. I just need to change like a couple tiny little parts. Right, so what I'm going to do first off is I am going to go to design mode, right? And what I want to do is I need to get rid of this drop down, and I want to replace it with a text input, right? So what I'm going to do, there's this little unclickable thing in front of it, so I'm going to move that down so that I can do it. And then I'm going to put a text input over this because I don't want to change too much here. That's just going to confuse you guys. So I'm going to kind of put this over that so that it hides it. I'm going to call this letter input. And the rest, let me just change the background so that it matches. So I'm going to set the RGB to this value. And that should be good enough. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put this unclickable back over it. Just because I don't want to break the rest of the code and I don't want to confuse you guys on what I'm doing. So what I need to do now is add, because I have a new input called letter input, I need to add, actually, I'm going to do this different. I am going to just get rid of this drop down and just replace it with that. It's up to you guys if you want to do this or not, but I think this will make it easier for you. All right, so hopefully that didn't confuse you. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change, since I got rid of the letter drop down, I'm going to change this to letter input. And then for that letter input, I'm going to change it from change to input. Because we should use input when we're doing this. And then the rest of it can stay the same. I'm going to get, actually we do need to change this, get number from letter drop down and get text from letter input. I need to change this one to letter input, and I want to change this one to letter input because I got rid of the drop down, so I need to make sure that I'm using the letter input. The rest of this can stay the same, right? So what I need to do now in here, I really only need to make one change. Because right now this substring, I'm saying get the first letter. But going forward, I don't know if they're going to type, one letter, or if they're going to type like multiple letters, right? But I want to account for that. So what I can do here, I have this letter, right? It's a string, but I can use length on a string and it'll tell me how many characters are in the string. So I'm going to get wordlist and index I dot substring from 0 to letter dot length. Right. And honestly, that is, I believe, the only thing that we need to change. So now, if I say like, 3, I haven't typed anything in here yet, so, we just have to find one that works. If I say like cat, right, it finds cat. I think if I said, if it was 5 letters and a void, right? So it's a 5-letter word that starts with AV. So again, I wouldn't worry about this level too much, other than understanding how this filtered list patterns. If this substring threw you, I would just avoid it on the AP exam or on your midterm exam. But like I said, you're always welcome to come by if you want to understand this better, because some of these are kind of some hard concepts to explain in a video. But this is what your code should look like for this lesson. All right.